Hey guys, how's it going? It's Andy from MagooInvesting. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about some more long-term plays. In the past, I normally talk about a lot of swing trades and I talk about stocks that have fallen after recent news. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down my 5 top stocks for 2020, and there's kind of something in here for everyone. Normally I talk about the more short-term trades, but today I'm going to be talking about some dividend plays, some long-term, and some more riskier trades. Basically all the stuff that I find very attractive in the upcoming year that I think have a lot of potential. Based off of the incredible year that the stock market's had, being up almost 25% year to date, there are a lot of stocks that are sitting at around 52-week highs, and there's not a lot of upside on the charts right now. And all of these stocks have at least 10 to 15% of upside, some as high as 50%. Before we get started, I really appreciate if you guys hit that like and subscribe button, as it would help my channel out a lot. And I'd like to hear what your guys' top stocks for 2020 are, and if you can leave them in the comment section down below, I'd love to see what you guys think. And before we get started, I gotta say that I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and I'd highly recommend talking to a professional. Someone can find you the best places to put your money going forward. First up on this list is McDonald's, ticker symbol MCD. This is probably the safest play that I have out there. With a giant in the fast food industry, it's had a pretty solid year up until the removal of its CEO a couple months ago, and the stock has fallen from its all-time highs. And when you're talking about these well-established companies that don't move a lot, normally I think of stuff like Microsoft and Apple, which are sitting at 52-week highs. McDonald's has fallen almost 12% from its all-time high, and it has some room to go. And so when I think about these news stories that push the stock down, I like to think, is it a problem with the company overall, or is it just kind of bad publicity that kind of pushes the stock down? In this case, when we have the CEO being removed, I don't see that as being a problem with how the company runs, more of having one bad apple. And you have some misconduct with the CEO, gets booted out, you get some new guy in here that I've only heard good things about, and I love the upside of this stock. In addition, the stock has a nice 2.6% dividend payout, and I think that's a pretty good option for a stock to put into a long-term safe portfolio. This isn't something that's going to make you 30% in 1 year, but this is something where if you're looking for these well-known stocks that you can be comfortable putting your money into, I think McDonald's is a great option. I recently talked to one of my buddies whose dad owned McDonald's after the fall, after the CEO left, and he told me that he sold his position because it wasn't moving fast enough. McDonald's isn't a stock that's going to be up 5% in a single day. It's something that's going to be slowly chugging up, and that's why I have it as my safest play for 2020. Next up, we're going to be talking about Twitter, my favorite play for 2020, ticker symbol TWTR. And so Twitter is a stock that I currently have a position in at around $29. And the reason I really like it is the stock pushed up to above $40 and fell after the recent earnings. And when I talk about stocks that I like to take positions in, I look for stuff that's been hit by bad news, recent earnings, and this was kind of both of them. So for the recent earnings, the stock missed on earnings because they had a bug with their ad system. And so as a result, they didn't make as much money as previously expected. And while this seems really bad and the stock fell 20 or 25% after hours after it was announced, I think of that as being able to get into a company that I love at a great discount. When I think of that news, I don't exactly think of the company has a problem overall. It seems like they had a bug, they missed out on earnings for 1 quarter, but I'm assuming that'll be fixed in the future. And as I've said stuff, it's at 52-week highs at this point, and when Twitter has around 50% to go up into its recent all-time highs, that looks great for me. Also, since it's fallen, it's held pretty steady around the $29 and $30 mark. So my current price is around $29, and I'm looking to exit after the gap fill at around $40, or I might hold it a little higher to see where it goes. I think Twitter has great potential to take over Facebook as being the most popular social media platform out there. Currently, I know a lot of young people use Twitter almost exclusively, and they don't use Facebook, and it's great for social media, it's great for getting news, and I think it has the potential to become one of the most popular stocks out there in the future. Next up, we're going to be talking about Boeing, ticker symbol BA. Boeing is one of those stocks where it is one of the components of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and it's one of the lower end performing stocks on the year. After you had the 2 deadly crashes that it had at the end of last year, and then the news pushing through this year, the stock is only up 10% year to date, and has fallen since its all-time highs. One of the big problems with Boeing going forward is that they've grounded its 737 MAX planes indefinitely. And when I made the video about Boeing, which I'll throw up here, they talked about how the CEO hopes that the planes will be getting off the ground at the end of this year. Recently there was a news that during one of the tests there was a major problem, but besides that, I think that Boeing is a super well-established company that's at a discount, and assuming that the planes are given the A-OK to get off the ground, I think it has a lot of upside. I'd also be kind of worried about the potential of the planes getting delayed further and pushing the stock down, because the stock moved up around 3 or 4% when the news came out that the CEO talked that the planes might be coming off the ground, and if they get delayed further, I'd be looking for another drop there. So the safer play would be to kind of wait to see what happens with that news, or if you want to be risky and bet that the planes are going to be getting off the ground by the end of this year or at the beginning of 2020, I think that Boeing is a great play. The second to last company we're going to be talking about today is Activision, ticker symbol ATVI. And this is one of those companies that as the stock market fell at the end of last year, Activision got hit really hard. It fell really fast and has kind of recovered slowly up through this year. When I talked about it in a recent video, one of the things that I really like about the stock going forward is the franchising of its esports. When you have these video game companies, it seems very important for the next edition of the game to come out and be successful. In the past couple years, Call of Duty has not been performing very well. And kind of the franchising gives it so they have more forms of income with the esports and not just relying solely on the sales of the game. And I think this improves the longevity of the company, and I think that the charts are very attractive. I would be looking for the stock to push above $57 or $57.50 before taking a position. There's a really solid resistance there, and I'd be looking for it to push above that, come back, retest it, and then push back up to the upside. I think this is one of the best opportunities out there, but I'm kind of worried that in the short term, it's going to hit that resistance and get rejected. It's currently in a nice upward channel, but I'd be very patient to make sure that it can push through that resistance successfully before taking a long-term position. And finally, this stock may come as somewhat of a surprise, as I've recently talked about it and kind of did not say a lot of good things about it. But the more I looked at it, I think it has one of the best upsides of any of these well-established companies out there. And we're going to be talking about Macys, ticker symbol M. And so Macys has fallen heavily in the past couple years. Recently, Macys has really struggled with transitioning from being just a brick and mortar store to transitioning to sales online. And right now, I've talked about how the stock has fallen heavily in the past, but as a result, the dividend payout has gone up a lot. Currently, the dividend's sitting around $10, and in that last video that I talked about it, I was kind of worried that if the stock continues to fall, that they might slash or cut the dividend completely. And for companies that we've talked about where that's happened, the main one that comes to mind is GameStop, where they cut the dividend and the stock fell, I think, 20% immediately right after the news was broken. I don't think that Macys is going to be cutting its dividend in the next 6 months or year even, but for taking a long-term position, I really like the outlook of the 10% dividend and the very nice support that it has set at $14. Taking a position in Macys could be very risky, but I like the set area to cut losses if the stock falls below $14. Currently, with the 10% dividend and the amazing amount of upside it has, I think that Macys is probably one of the best opportunities out there in the stock market right now. Obviously, when you have a lot of potential, you have a lot of risk associated with it. But I think kind of that risk is mitigated a little bit by the fact that it has this beautiful support set up at $14, where it's really easy to cut losses instead of just sitting there and thinking, maybe they'll recover. So I think it's really important with this position to cut losses below $14 and let it ride to the upside if it pushes up, and I'm kind of right about this prediction. Macys has to prove that it can recover from just a kind of year and a half, 2 years of being in a downturn, and if it does that, I think Macys is my top stock for 2020. Let me know what you think of my list overall for 2020, and let me know what stocks you're watching for the upcoming year. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.